Another big story to tell you about. They were there to help people who were dying, and now they're dead. As if Ebola isn't scary enough, did a senseless massacre in Guinea just make things worse? At least 8 Ebola aid workers reportedly killed in cold blood with machetes and clubs by villagers in a West African nation of Guinea, the very folks who these folks were trying to help. It comes as the president prepares to send 3,000 American troops to the region to fight the disease. But will they end up in combat with the folks they're trying to help? It's happened before. The guy who remembers Black Hawk Down on why he fears it could be happening all over again. That in a moment. First to Trace Gallagher on what happened here. Trace.
Neil, Ebola cases in West Africa have gone up 13% in just the past week, and the World Health Organization thinks the number of cases is well underreported, which is why experts say it's so vital to get the word out to these far-flung towns and cities. The healthcare team was in a remote village in Guinea trying to educate residents on the dangers of Ebola. Witnesses say they were greeted by the chief with open arms, but then some villagers began accusing the aid workers of lying about the Ebola virus, even accusing them of trying to bring the virus to the village to eliminate them. Witnesses say the aid workers were attacked by young people with rocks and machetes. Authorities got word of violence and tried to mount a rescue, but the villagers destroyed the bridges leading into the area. 8 people were killed, including the program director, doctors, and 3 journalists covering the outreach effort. 2 members of the aid team are still missing, but some did manage to escape, and their accounts have led to several arrests. But this is the 3rd attack on health workers since the outbreak of the virus, and experts say strategies to inform people have become extremely difficult. They add that without education and compliance, containing the disease will be impossible. Here's the World Health Organization. Listen.
This is likely the greatest peacetime challenge that the United Nations and its agencies have ever faced. None of us experience in containing outbreaks has ever seen in our lifetimes an emergency on this scale.
And right now, Sierra Leone, one of the hardest hit countries, is on 3-day lockdown so that aid workers can go door to door educating residents and looking for hidden cases. Plus 3,000 American troops will head to West Africa in the next 30 days to help coordinate the medical and the humanitarian response for this. Neil.
That's tragic. Trace, thank you very much. Trace Gallagher. This latest incident is very reminiscent of Black Hawk Down. Remember that one? When U.S. troops on a humanitarian mission in Somalia were attacked and killed. Some of their bodies dragged through the streets of Mogadishu. Crowds ripping up the American flag as they cheered on. Lieutenant Colonel Tony Schaefer remembers that quite well and fears if we're not careful, we could be repeating history all over again. It is really eerily reminiscent of that, and I'm wondering what we do to prevent something like that. Colonel, what do you think?
First off, don't send in 3,000 troops. There are things we can do. This is a civil matter. It's not a military matter yet. And there's an organization, if you will, a Delta Force of medical organizations, the U.S. Army's Medical Institute of Infectious Diseases, AMRIDS, up at Fort Detrick. They are renowned in dealing with this sort of thing. But, Neil, let me be clear on this. There's nothing we can do. They're talking about setting up 17 hospitals and essentially making this hospice care for those who are dying. At this point, because there is no cure, the best thing you can do is isolate this so the disease burns itself out. The only 2 things we can do, which don't require 3,000 troops, is give our best and brightest folks to aid CDC, the Center for Disease Control, who should be the lead on this, working for WHO, and also looking for strategic reconnaissance, looking with other allies to figure out where this disease may go vector-wise through international travel. It doesn't require 3,000 boots on the ground.
Well, what do you think is going to happen to those soldiers?
If they go, it's going to be bad. As we just saw in Guinea, you're the potential of going in with the best possible intentions, sending in aid like we did in Somalia. But the moment you get there, people either believe you're part of, you're bringing the disease, you are the harbinger of it, or they prove to be resentful and attack you. And Neil, if soldiers get in a firefight where they cut their skin in the hot zone, this is a hot zone, this is where the disease is at, you're talking about certain death even with a scratch. If for those who saw World War Z, this is it. You would actually end up dying in some horrible way if you're infected, and there's no cure. There's no way we can cure all these folks. So I think we have to take a real careful look at what our objectives are, why we're going to do this, what we should do instead before we take any action such as this.
Colonel, thank you very, very much.
Sure.
Lieutenant Colonel Tony Schaefer.